Pro.
Back on Get Down to Business, the show that's all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship, and joined once again by John Figiel of Tandem HR. John, welcome back to Get Down to Business.
Thanks, Shalom. Good to see you again.
Of course. So, so often in today's culture, news, environment, you're hearing about how the people that are finding jobs are frankly the recent college grads, and that often is the case. A lot of companies are trying to attract young professionals, but there's opportunities for professionals to grow within organizations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly in this economy, now that we see that businesses are growing, every organization has to be thinking about not only bringing employees in, but now how do we help them develop their careers? And then how do you start filling positions with internal candidates as opposed to external candidates? And that's what leads to a talent pipeline.
Baby boomers, I believe statistics show, have stayed in their jobs for longer than today's young professionals stay in their jobs. Obviously, a lot of this has to do with culture and environment, which we've spoken about in the past.
Right.
But a lot of it also has to do with developing talent and creating professional development opportunities. Is there tips that you can provide for our listeners of how to do that successfully?
Yes. So for business owners, I think there's really three things to start with. One is think about your business strategy, and then from that strategy, what are those skills and capabilities that you need to implement that strategy? And that's a step that people miss a lot. They think, oh, we're just going to go start, hire this particular role, but understand how that role fits into the strategy. Then once you've got those roles identified, really start thinking about what we call the buy or build decision. Do you want to go out and hire people from the outside, or do you want to build people internally? And there's pros and cons to both, but what I would suggest is think strongly about building your internal talent, because you've got people who know your culture, you got people who know your clients, you got people who know your teams, and start putting together some training plans and some development plans to help them improve their skills so they can move up and grow with your company.
Should companies assume that their employees, that their talent is being either recruited by other companies or might actively be looking for new development opportunities for their career in terms of how they should look at keeping their talent in-house?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Shalom, particularly in today's market where it is very tight and it is a seller's market. Every manager every day should be thinking about what is it that I can be doing to what we say re-recruit their employees. So we recruit them once when we bring them in, but how can you re-recruit them so they want to stay and they want to grow?
How frequently should a company be looking at that re-recruitment process? I like that term for each of their employees, the really talented ones, the ones that they do not want to see leave their organization. Yeah,
well, that's another excellent point in that organizations should go through what we call a talent review. And at least twice a year, maybe if your calendar year is a fiscal year, it's a calendar year, maybe it's mid-year and at the end of the year, is sit down and think about who are those key employees that we don't want to lose, that are critical to the growth of this organization, and then put a plan in place. You want to at least have a conversation with them probably at least once a quarter, if not more frequently.
Fascinating. And what does professional development mean? Does that mean putting them through a master's degree program or some additional training opportunities?
Yeah, the answer to that question really is it depends. So it depends on what the requirements for the roles are. So if you're trying to develop someone to take on a leadership role, getting an MBA may be a critical element of that, but it's not necessarily for every position. So there's really two things to think about. One is what are the skills and abilities, and usually you can fill those with training. But the other is what are those experiences that people need? 70% of what people learn to be successful in a job is through their day-to-day experience. So if somebody needs to be an effective project manager, put them on a project team and have them learn how to be a good project team member and then how to lead a team. So it's experiences as much as training.
So we're chatting with John Figiel of Tandem HR about building a talent pipeline in your organization. John, so much of what we just spoke about seems to refer to executives within a company, people that are at middle management, upper management levels. What about the John Does of the company, the employees? How do you take them from a regular position where they were just hired at an entry-level job and really move them up in that early stage of their career?
Right. There's really, think about three things. One is the training to do the job. Then there's the cultural element of the organization. What is it that you want them to learn about and be an effective member of the team? And then the third thing is think about stretch assignments. What is it that you want them to skills that they want them to build so they can move up. And so you have to be very targeted with that, Shalom. It's not just randomly assigning them projects and things like that. I used the example of project management before, but it could be learning software, or it could be learning particular processes or systems.
So it sounds like employees should be assigned a mentor within an organization?
Yeah, mentors are great, whether they're informal or you could have a formal mentorship program. I would also add every manager's role should be as a coach. We know that managers manage, but they also should be coaching and developing their employees. So that's a critical part of every manager's job.
Well, we're quickly running out of time, but this process sounds time-consuming. It needs to be an investment by organizations in their employees, but time-consuming. It probably, if it's done correctly, John, can it be done and broken out over a period of time?
Yes, this should be something that should be built into your everyday work and then your annual plan. So when you think about developing a talent pipeline, we put plans in place. We put sales strategies in place. We put marketing strategies in place. You should have a talent strategy in place, and you should manage that like any other important business strategy, because your talent is a critical element of your business strategy.
Put a talent strategy in place. Fascinating information from John Figiel of Tandem HR. John, you've got a lot more to share on the topic. I could tell we could go on forever, but how can our listeners get a hold of you if they want to talk some more about keeping talent within an organization?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from your listeners. They can contact me at jfigiel@tandemhr.com.
Fantastic, John. We appreciate your time. Check out tandemhr.com. They're your solution center for everything HR. They've got blogs, information, great company, great environment, and you can find out so many great resources and information on their website. Don't touch that dial. We've got more information for you. You're listening to Get Down to Business.